Hello, my sisters and brothers. Today, in this very first installment of the Families of Light, I want to talk about what a family of light is, and what it is not. For many years on my website, Love from Baby, I have been talking about these very high vibrational children that are coming in now, and we have to prepare ourselves to match and meet their frequency so we can harmoniously parent these children. And just a brief refresher, I know many of you probably have read my book, if you're coming from Love from Baby, my book, What All Spirit Babies Want Their Mamas to Know. And I talk about the frequency jump that each generation has coming in, how we're on a stair step higher than our parents vibrationally, and they're on a stair step higher than their parents vibrationally. But the children coming in now in this generation are a huge frequency jump ahead of us. And so our generation, has a lot of unlearning to do and a lot of learning to do to really match the frequency of these children coming in. So I have been talking about this for years. It's a spiritual journey to raise our consciousness, to elevate our frequency. And the children coming in, a lot of the time there's lots of baggage and karma to clear before they come in, which is why we as parents to be can have a little bit of a challenge bring them here. It's all part of the spiritual evolution, and it helps jumpstart the challenges and the struggles, unfortunately, help jumpstart our karmic clearing, and it can serve as a catalyst for heart openings, and it can get us places faster than if we didn't experience challenges. So the kids coming in after we work through all this karmic stuff, trying to bring them through, are basically baggage-free, karma-free, blank slates. My 7-year-old especially, I can see how he's just this blank slate of joy, and my job is to get out of the way of his mastery, of his divinity, and just allow him to be who he is. There's so much to talk about the families of light. All this just to say, I want to talk about maybe some misconceptions of what these children are, and what we think they are, because there are so many stories. And you know what, when I was a young mother the first time to my baby boy, I would be reading things about super psychic children and all these young kids doing these amazing things. And so I think we can get this misconception that these high vibrational children should be acting in ways that we deem spiritual. So for instance, I have done some higher dimensional parenting readings, which is more like spiritual guidance for parents, to help them parent from an easier, joyful place with less judgment, and a lot of it is spiritual judgment. There is so much spiritual judgment about what is right, what is wrong, what the high path looks like. Okay, so it's so easy to think that every high vibrational child coming in is going to have like these amazing abilities. They're probably going to want to be vegetarian. Maybe they're drawn to crystals and meditating and peaceful things, and they won't be interested in TV and video games, and they'll be hatching plans at young ages on how to save the world, and they'll be able to talk to animals, and they'll just be doing all these amazing things. And while this is partially true, these high vibrational children are not high vibrational because of the things they choose to do. That's very important for me I'm going to say it again. It's important to understand. These children are not high vibrational because of the things they choose to do or not do. They're high vibrational because they bring a high frequency to whatever they are doing. And this is just going to lead into the next video, which is so important for us as high vibrational parents to really, really understand. But the readings I've done in the past, I can think specifically of a certain mom being concerned that her 2-year-old was watching too much TV, and, from our spiritual judgment, we think that, and we've been programmed to think that, so it's not our fault. This is stuff we've been programmed. Even the spiritual journey programs us in certain ways. And we've been programmed to think that too much TV is bad, and we're failing as a mother or as a parent if our children are watching too much TV, and, it's gonna rot their brain cells, and it's gonna do something bad to them, So we enter this worry into it. And the same can be said for video games, and the same can be said for, if they like eating certain things like junk food over other things. But again, it's not what they're doing, it's the high vibration they bring to it. So I'm going to use my own children as an example. My oldest, from a young age, I had 2 miscarriages before he came along, and I knew that it was the same soul every time. And I talk about this on my site, Love from Baby, in many, many places. But when he was younger, he would tell me stories of why he was unable to come at that time. He had things to take care of. I mean, the things that would come out of his mouth at young ages, all of them, they have more recall. And this is natural for young children. And, they start to forget it. And that's okay too. They can remember it when it's time. But all these children, and this is something you can ask your children too, just who were you before this? Or why did you come here? I know that my first son especially would talk a lot about these things in the bath. There's something about water being a good conductor of high vibrational energies, and would just help him sort of recall things. And on walks and drives, something that, is sort of like meditative, that can help bring it out. So, all my children have had amazing levels of wisdom in them, and the things they would say would be amazing. The wisdom in them is really wonderful, and I've done my best to foster it and preserve it. However, in other ways, we unschool, and I let them watch TV. I let them play. My oldest, I let him play Fortnite hours a day. And I have learned not to have judgment about it. And I'm going to give you the same story I told this mother who I did the reading for, who was worried that her 2-year-old was watching too much TV. So my second son, I think he was about two at the time as well, that we were having this party at our house. And he wasn't interested in the party. He just wanted to sit and watch his little DVD player, with a movie. And thankfully, I had learned not to fight it by that time. My eldest paved the way. And I took a picture of him watching his little DVD player while the rest of us were, enjoying our party. And when I looked at the picture, there was this huge orb in between him and the screen, which I loved, because that just goes to show this little one is divinely protected and divinely guided in all his endeavors, even TV watching, So don't worry if your child is not a meditating, crystal-loving, save the world, Jesus-painting vegetarian. Okay, that's not what these children are going to come and present. They are going to bring a higher vibration to just being natural kids. And we may have to learn to adapt to what we think our children should and should not be doing. And frankly, it's just letting them lead the way. We're going to have to unlearn the things we've learned about milestones, like children should be reading by 5 and riding a bike by 4, and they should have plenty of friends by 7, and that's not necessarily the path that these new children will take. They will do things differently. Uh, I'm going to talk about my middle son especially, well, and my youngest, but maybe it's because he's got 2 brothers. But my middle son, who is 11 right now, has always been very self-possessed. And I got this message from him when he was in the womb because I was going through like some sadness, and I was worried that the sadness when I was pregnant with him was affecting him. And he'd say, "Mama, you feel however you need to feel. I am protected. I am very self-possessed." Self-contained these children are. They don't need the things that we've been told they need. Um, he doesn't have any friends, and he doesn't have the need for them. Every time we've tried, he has not been interested. He goes outside every day and plays by himself and our dog. These children will paint different pictures of what we think, and it's okay if it doesn't look like what we think. But these children will bring a higher vibration to any activity they do. And just that higher vibration alone, if we can allow them to have this experience that they're having unfettered, then that's them doing the work and us allowing them to do the work. So these children, these new children coming in, they might not look what you think. They're like, "Oh, that doesn't really look enlightened." But they are the frequency, and mostly our job as parents is to just get out of the way, which we will talk about in many, many more installments of the Families of Light. So, misconceptions of families, these children, it doesn't have to look like what you think. You don't have to be out there doing things like an activity all the time and traveling, and it has nothing to do about activity. It's the consciousness and the allowing of the activity. And they will do normal, everyday things that kids do, but they will do it from a higher place, especially if we allow them without judgment and watch them. And I'm just going to give another quick example before I sign off here. I remember my middle son got interested in Minecraft at a very young age. He was 3. And he always wanted someone to play with him, and I said, well, let's just teach him how to play. And that's all he needed. We taught him the letters he needed, and he just went off with it. And I think he was maybe 3.5 when I was just sitting down and watching him. And I would let him play however long he wanted to play. And I was sitting there watching him and thinking, wow, watching how he was building and knowing that if it was me playing, I would be building in a very different way because of how I have been programmed. I would build in a linear way, where he was building in a spherical way with such imagination. And that's when I really understood that I'm not going to teach my children to read before they're ready, because reading teaches us things in a linear way. And they were resistant to early reading, and I was resistant to the early reading. And so I let them learn to read when they were ready to read. And just as an aside, when they're actually ready to learn something, they can do it just like that. With my oldest son, going off into tangents here, but with my oldest son, I was still trying to figure this out, and he's 5, so I have to be teaching him how to read, and oh my God, the battles he and I would get in were just horrible. And I finally stopped trying to teach him, and that is the year he figured it out, because he was ready. He figured it out on his own. And the same with my youngest, my middle child. My eldest learned to read when he was 9, just like that, and my middle child learned to read when he was 10. He just wasn't interested. He wasn't getting it. And all of a sudden he said, I want to learn how to read. I spent a couple of, like a few minutes every day for a couple of weeks. And then that's it. He gets it. He gets it. When he was ready. And when we wait until they're ready and interested, they can learn it just like that. But anyway, going back to watching him learn and express in a spherical way, that's where the genius is. That is where the genius is. So it's up to us to just forget how we were parented, because that was based on old programming. No matter how loving our parents were, it was based on old programming. And let our children follow the lead, no matter what it looks like, no matter how they're spending their time. These children who are spending time on technology may be the next technical wizards, the technological wizards. So don't worry about what your children are doing. Just know that the frequency they bring to whatever they were doing will raise the frequency of exactly what they're doing. And if we get out of the way and know that they are divinely guided and divinely protected, then we are really allowing them to blossom into their genius. We all have geniuses inside, and mostly it's just about getting out of the way. So don't worry about what it looks like. Okay, just know that this frequency is raising the consciousness of the earth. And we'll meet them there. I love you.